So Garrison Price from the Historic Wall Center, joined now by John Shannon, the new pod, 100% Hockey, with Darren Millard, of course, the most famous man from Oliver, British Columbia. How are you?
Happy Monday, boys.
Mm-hmm.
Back at you.
So going to ask you our poll question, our Surrey Mitsubishi poll question. Is it inevitable that one of JT Miller or Elias Pettersson has to be traded here, John? Can you see these two coexisting, or is it an inevitability that the Canucks are going to have to cast their lot with one of them?
I don't think it's inevitable. I think that they'll find a way to make this work between the two of them. If in fact there are as major issues as people are alleging at this point. But you guys have all been in dressing rooms. You've all been around clubs. Not everybody's bosom buddies. Not everybody's friends all the time. Some of the best teams in professional sports have had anger management issues. Let's put it that way. But I think this is really too much about nothing. If they play together, that's one thing. But if they're on separate lines, and even if they play together, I mean, the game is so different when you do or don't have the puck. I mean, if the Canucks think that they're going to have to go one way or the other, I just don't see that. I really don't. I think that there's room for both. The Canucks need both. I think that's a better story is, the Canucks need both guys to be, working on all cylinders, and hopefully that day is going to come one day.
Did you foresee a time this season when Rick Tocchet, on multiple occasions now, will be calling out the best players on his team, as we saw this weekend?
No, I didn't. I think there's a real genuine frustration with the coaching staff, with management, that there were lessons to be learned by going 2 rounds in the playoffs, and the players haven't learned those lessons, Blake. And I think that's actually one of the big frustrations with the organization right now, is that, we always talk about this on a constant basis. We just need playoff experience. We need to go deep in the playoffs. Then we need to understand what price you pay. Well, you learn what price to pay, and then you perform better. What appears to have happened, and what is being said is our guys, hopefully learned what price to pay, and they thought it would get easier. And it's not easier, it's tougher, but you have to be committed to it. And that, I think, is the biggest aspect of this that is driving people within the organization nuts.
The optics of Elias Pettersson aren't great on a night-to-night basis, but the stats don't necessarily support that. And so it's a difficult nut to crack here, in that he's not sewering you. It's just he admittedly is not necessarily putting the team on his back, as the coach says, like the guys at Edmonton can do. Is that even a fair comparison, though, to make? No,
it's not. I mean, I remember in the first year or so of Pettersson's career, I made comparisons to some of the aspects of the way he played the game to McDavid and to Gretzky, and people thought I had 5 heads. So I'm going to say that it's difficult to compare what McDavid and Draisaitl do on a constant basis. But then again, I think that McDavid and Draisaitl learned a ton from those 4 rounds of playoffs last year. And I think that that's a key aspect. The biggest challenge for Elias Pettersson, in my opinion, is that, and this is why I think there's a schism with some of the fan base, is that it appears that he doesn't care as much as JT Miller. Miller wears it on his sleeve. Miller lives this. He dies this. And Elias Pettersson just chugs along. But that's DNA. That's societal, where people come from, how they interact. So I don't think it's fair to Pettersson. I really don't. And I tell you what, I am, and I don't think the organization is anywhere near to giving up on him.
If the day did come, and I know you reject the premise, who do you think management and the coaching staff would cut their lot with, JT or Elias?
I will reiterate, I don't think the day will come.
It's a good answer. Stick to your guns.
It won't come. It's just, I think that both of them have great attributes that this organization can build around. And I rue the day that even is considered by many. So I'm not answering, Matt. I'm not taking the fifth.
I see that your Oliver is showing, sir. Rutherford thinks they're 2 pieces away. That's what he told After Hours. Do you concur?
Well, do they need another top 6 forward? Do they need another defenseman?
Yeah.
And the answer is, I think every team in the league needs a top 6 forward, and every team in the league needs another defenseman. What I'd be more concerned about right now is how quickly Thatcher Demko can get into game shape. The first game he played was impressive. I think that the last game he played, you said, "Oh, he's starting to look tired already." And then you have to say, "Well, you know what? He's just not ready yet." But he needs those games. You're not going to get it in practice. You need those games, and that's when you need team defense to take over and help your starting goaltender.
How do you Jimmy? How would he react to the coach saying what he's saying, to the players acting as they have, the JT Miller saga with him leaving the team? Get inside his brain if you can. What do you speculate he might be thinking about this team and about the need to make changes more specifically? Because this has been an odd year. This has been a weird year with a lot of plot twists. This is like a Netflix soap right now, it feels like, here in the NHL.
Yeah, and I think he's trying to pat down a lot of that soap opera level. I think he understood exactly what JT Miller was going through, hence the support for Miller that he gave. I would suggest that I don't think Rick Tocchet says anything that hasn't been discussed before with management, and that they are in lockstep. That they are together. They believe in each other. They understand each other. Rick Tocchet doesn't get this job without full buy-in, and the other way around. Rick Tocchet doesn't buy in without Jim Rutherford and Patrick Alvin. So I don't think that that's an issue. I do think the fulcrum, I do think the issue is where the players are in all of this when it comes to understanding what price you pay. What price you pay to play the game. Adam Foote, the coach, knows what price to pay. He's won his name is on the Stanley Cup. Rick Tocchet's name's on the Stanley Cup. They know what price to pay. Do the players. And I think that at times can be very frustrating for everybody that isn't in that dressing room.
Rutherford said with the home record, if that continues, they're not a playoff team. 4 at home, John. They're sitting on the last playoff spot right now. Big one against Colorado's in the other wild card spot here tonight. Calgary on the same number of points, albeit with 2 extra games in hand. What do you think? Are you at all worried about Vancouver Canucks as a playoff team right now?
I'm not, but I understand what is said when we're not a playoff team. When you can't win at home, I mean, would you? I mean, the options are miss the playoffs, or in this case, lose in 4 straight. I can't believe we're talking about losing in 4 straight in December. But if home is supposed to be where you're better, this whole concept of being one of the best road teams and one of the worst home teams is such a dichotomy for me that I don't really understand it, and I don't think people. With the hockey club too, understand it. So from that perspective, they do have to get better at home. They do. The question is why are they playing this way? Are they trying too hard? Are they trying to impress? Are they the simplicity of being on the road? Because there is as you guys know, living life on the road in so many ways is simpler. Hotel, arena, bus, airplane. That's it. Well, the distractions of home in a very, very intense hockey market is one that you have to understand that it's taking a toll, and how do you manage that? And I think that that's something that is probably a really important discussion between players and coaches, between management and players as well.
Thatcher Demko's had 2 tough outings, thanks to the team in front of him. That's unideal, I would think, in his comeback here. And yet he got to see a lot of different scenarios over the course of these two games, and he seems to have passed them physically, which I guess is the silver lining here.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I must admit there were a couple of times on Saturday against the Bruins that he went down, and I started to worry.
Yeah, right.
I said, "Ooh, that how is the populatitis or whatever it's called? How is that doing today?" And so yes, but that's what I was talking about. Like, that's the type of thing you can only do in a game. You can't do that at practice. So, to get him these opportunities, and now understand that it's not panic. You can put Kevin Lankinen in and be 100% confident of what's going on is really important for this hockey club right now. So from that perspective, just stay the course on whatever the plan was for Demko, that he's going to play every second game or every third game, and get him back by the new year into a place where you're saying, okay, now we have Thatcher Demko where he needs to be to lead us to the playoffs and particularly win some home games.
I know you go down to Buffalo from time to time. Cross-border shopping, some visiting with friends. Is Buffalo primed to be fleeced right now? Pagula's apparently making the trip to Montreal today to talk to Kevin Adams and the Sabres after his football team has a magnificent win and he's at the NFL meetings. Is Buffalo in a spot where you think they may do something big, something potentially rash, just because of all the losing and because they would like to get back in this playoff race in the East, a la the Ottawa Senators and some of the other teams that have forever see themselves looking up at the Eastern Conference playoff bar?
The question becomes, who's responsible for the Sabres losing 10 games, either in overtime or shootout or regulation? Who's in charge of that? Lindy has taken full responsibility for it. Lindy Ruff's a good coach. Lindy Ruff was the owner's choice to coach. To me, the onus right now falls on the guy who's constructed this team, and that's Kevin Adams. And not often, because usually we blame the players. No, we blame the coach first, then we blame the players, and then we blame the manager. Well, we've got to stop that. There are a couple of situations in the National Hockey League, Buffalo being one, and I think the Rangers being the other, that I think you have to point the finger directly at the manager, not at the coach or the players, to change something. The other aspect of this is that, I know Devin Levi played last night in Toronto, and he was pretty good, but UPL has not been what he was last year. And that's a big factor. He had a great second half of the season. Maybe they're hoping that, the calendar turns and UPL is better. They're young defensemen. Dahlin, who's been hurt. Owen Power has been inconsistent. That's a huge issue for a lot of people. And there's so many inconsistencies amongst the forwards. So the answer is, I don't know what the owner's going to Montreal for. I don't think, if Terry's going there to have a long discussion with Lindy and Kevin Adams, then so be it. But I don't think Terry Pagula has any idea of what the players are going through and what the players are doing right or wrong. Because I think a lot of people liked where this team was when the season started, and the bodies that they had, and the Dylan Cousins of the world were going to have breakout years, and the truth is they just haven't. Mm-hmm. Tage Thompson has not had a year like he had previously. So there are still some major issues of personnel in Buffalo, but in my mind, that falls right on Kevin Adams.
Yeah, well, and I'm just wondering whether in an attempt to save his bacon, he's going to make a move here, John. Like, are we going to see a Bowen Byram trade? Are we going to see Jack Quinn or Dylan Cousins or some of the guys who haven't been working out as well this year get moved in short order to see if he can just change the balance, change the tone, the temper, the whatever of this club before the season is lost. If it's not lost already, I mean, you could argue it's lost already, although it's not exactly a high bar in the Eastern.
It's a snail race.
It is. It's a turtle derby. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I'll tell you what, I would be Now, I've never owned an NHL team. I don't have deep enough pockets, but I do think I have a sense of what hockey teams are all about. I would be telling Kevin, you cannot make a major deal at this point unless you're going to get me an elite superstar player in return. Because, by the way, the last time we got rid of our elite player, he went on to win the Stanley Cup, and we haven't done squat since.
Is Elias elite? John?
Yeah, does that mean qualification?
No.
Will you entertain that question?
Buffalo, no. I'm not entertaining the question yet. I'm still taking the fifth.
It's Christmas, and he won't play in my reindeer games, John Shannon. All right.
Old and stubborn. I'm old and stubborn.
Guess.
That's why they get.
I guess he lit a path with his nose. The rest of the reindeer followed. John, we don't have a show next Tuesday. It is Christmas Eve, so a Merry Christmas to you and the entirety of the Shannon family. Thank you for this, and we'll catch up in a couple of weeks.
Merry Christmas to everybody on the show and to everybody throughout the province. It's always good to talk hockey in British Columbia.